Today we are going to talk about multiplying and dividing decimals. Our learning target is that you will be able to multiply and divide decimals fluently. The answer to a multiplication problem is called the product, and the answer to a division problem is called quotient. So over here to the right, we have our steps to solve a multiplication problem. So you'll always be able to reference those steps right here. Step 1 is that you do not need to line up the decimals when writing the problem vertically. Step 2, you're going to multiply like normal. So let's write this problem vertically. $1.159 times 0.03. Multiply like normal, so 9 times 3 is 27. Place your 2 up here. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1. And then 3 times 1 is 4. And it says to count the numbers of decimal places in both factors. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I like to write the number over to the side. There are 5 numbers to the right of the decimal, so that means I'm going to start to the back of the number and I'm going to count 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, needing to place a 0 in its place value. So my answer is 0 and 04477. And remember, we box our answers. Next problem is 8.5 times 2.3. So we write our numbers like normal. And in this case, it just so happens that our decimals line up. I usually like to I sometimes count my numbers to the right of the decimal, 1, 2, before I start multiplying and save that for later. 5 times 3 is 15, placing your 1 up here. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Hold your placeholder with a 0. Then 2 times 5 is 10. And 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Then we add these numbers. 5 plus 0 is 5. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 2 is 9. And 1 is 1. We have 2 numbers up here, and so that reminds us that we are going to move the decimal 2 times into our number to make our final answer, which is 19.55, boxing our answer. If you have any questions, make sure if you do not have this paper that you write a box on your note sheet to remind you to ask questions and place them there for tomorrow to ask in class. Our next problem, I want you to try on your own. When you think you have the answer, go ahead and push play. Your answer should be 0.032. And if you did not get that, I would pause the video and check to see if you can find your mistake. Remember, if you have any questions, that you will place it in your question box. Now we are going to move on to dividing decimals. When we divide with decimals, if we look here, these are the different ways that our problem can be given to us. So another way we could see this problem is 0.88 over 1.6. And so we would know how to set this up by looking at this right here. So step 1 is to write the problem with the dividend on the inside and the division side and the division sign, and then the divisor on the outside. So if we read this, 0.88, we read that first, we write it first. And then it's always divided by, divided by, divided by. So then our divided by sign comes next. And then we say 1.6 next, so then we write 1.6. Over here are your step-by-step instructions for dividing with decimals. And so then we go on to the inside, and we notice that our next step is to move the decimal into the divisor however many times is necessary to make a whole number. So we're going to change 1.6 into 16. And what we do to the divisor, we do to the dividend as well. So we moved it over one time, so it goes one time here. And I always like to rewrite my problem just so it looks nice and neat. So 16 dividing into 8.8. And your next step is to bring your decimal straight up and then divide like normal. 16 does not go into 8.8. 16 does go into 88. We just come over to the side and figure out how many times. So we pick a number that we think might be right. 6 times 5 is 30. Bring your 3 over here. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So 16 times 5 is 80. We subtract, and we have 8 left over. So we add a 0 to the dividend and bring it down. And then 16 times 5 again is 80. And then like always, we want to rewrite our problem before we box our answer. Remember, if you have any questions, then you can place them over here in a question box. If you're writing this on a piece of notebook paper, create a question box. Our next problem is 1.8 divided by 0.045. And remember, this could look like this. 1.8 divided by 0.045. And that's division as, that's fraction as division. Fraction notation. So step 1, we read 1.8 first, so we write 1.8 down. We read the division sign, so we write the division sign. Then we read this number, and that is our divisor. Step 2 is to move the decimal over however many times in the divisor as it takes to make a whole number. That's 1, 2, 3 times. So we're going to do the same in the dividend. So now instead of 0.045, we have 45. And then 1, 2, 3 times. And then we would add our zeros. 0, 0. And again, like I said, I like to rewrite the problem before solving. So it would be 45 into 1800. Adding that decimal at the back so that I know that that decimal goes right here in the problem. 45 does not go into 1. It does not go into 8. It does go into 180. So we go off to the side and try a number. Let's try 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. Plus 2 is 22. That's too much, so we want to write a different number. 45 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. 4 times 4 is 16. Plus 2 is 18. So it goes into 1 0 times, into 18 0 times, and into 4 100 and, I'm sorry, I'm writing that on the wrong problem. And into 4 180 times. Subtracting. Just because we got a 0 does not mean our problem is over. We still have one more 0 to bring down. And 45 goes into 0 0 times, subtracting 0 and getting 0. So rewriting our answer before we box. We have one more problem. I would like you to push pause and try it, and then press play when you think you have your answer. Okay, so you should have gotten 2.6, and if you did not get that answer, I would suggest pushing pause and seeing where you made your mistake. If you have any questions, again, write it down on your paper and be prepared to ask them tomorrow in class.